What's going on, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. This is Web Dev Journey, and in today's video we're going to be building out an RPC with RabbitMQ. Now, if you do not know what an RPC is, remote procedure call, it's just an API over HTTP. Just think about it as RESTful APIs, but instead of the structure of RESTful, RPC has their own structure of doing things, right? And there are some pros and cons and all that stuff, all that jazz. So look it up online. What is an RPC? And then if you want to use some use cases, just look that up online, right? But basically what it is, like I said, it's an API over HTTP, just like RESTful APIs, right? So what we're going to be doing in this video is the client is actually going to be sending a task to the backend, and then the backend is going to be sending back data, right? Something that we've never done with RabbitMQ before. This is the whole point of an RPC, right? So all we've been doing by far or until now was just sending data or a task or a message to the backend, and the backend takes care of it and then, acknowledges it. That's it, right? Never sending data back to the client. In this case, we are going to be sending data back to the client, and the client is going to be, well, in this case, we're going to just log it out to the screen, which is very exciting stuff. Honestly, it really is for me anyways. But before we get into that, guys, I do want to say thank you guys for watching my videos. It really does mean a lot to me that you watch my videos, or it really means a lot to me that you spend your time watching my videos. That means that you're getting some knowledge or some education off of it, which makes me really grateful, or it makes me giddy. No, I'm playing, bro. I don't know why I said that, but it does make me feel good that you're getting something off of it, right? Also, I want to thank all my Patreon supporters. Sorry guys, I've been lacking on that. I just read it again, like my Patreon, and I was the very last tier, which the people that did subscribe, I said that I was going to mention you guys, so I will be mentioning you guys. I'm super sorry about that, guys. Sorry, man. I really am. I'm really just lacking everything right now. Anyways, and thank you Chris for that donation. And for my Patreons, thank you Brandon and Mirza. I'm not too sure how you say it. I'm super sorry if I'm butchering it super bad. I know I am. It's probably Mirza or something like that. I'm not sorry. I'm super sorry. But thank you guys for supporting me. I really do appreciate it. By the way, guys, if you do not like me shouting out your names or anything like that, let me know, man, in the comments. We only have average 30 views, 40 views. So if you don't like it, I'm not going to do it again. So this is your time. Once my channel blows, everybody's going to know who you are. So when I start doing more shout outs, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody's going to know who's supporting me. But if you do not like me putting your names out or like that, just let me know, guys. All right. I will respect that. So anyways, enough about that. Let's get into the video. So what I want to do quickly is explain in diagram form how this is going to look like, right? So we have our client right here, our producer, whatever client, producer/client, it doesn't really matter. And we're going to actually have two queues, okay? We're going to have two queues, all right? So first of all, our client is going to send that data to our to the queue, right? And then the queue is going to send it to the server side or the consumer side, right? It's going to send that data to the consumer side. So once this is done processing that data and it has the data that you need, it's going to send that data to another queue, because we really don't want to keep this or send the data back to this queue. We don't want to do that. We want to keep this queue clean and nice, so that way it only receives data, right? And this queue down here, its only purpose is to grab that data that's sent from the server side and then give it back to the client, all right? So we want to make this very, very clean. But this is basically how it's going to look like, right? We have our producer, our client, sending some data to a queue, one queue over here, and then we have our server, processing that data. Maybe it's a GET request, right? You want to grab some users from the backend, so you send in a GET or a request for users. It's going to grab that list. It's going to send that list to this queue now, and then this queue is going to send that list to the client, where the client is going to have that data. So this is what we're doing. I'm just letting you know this is a small peek. In the end of the video, I am going to be explaining this in a more detailed way, as I always do. So just stay tuned for that if you're interested in that. So let's get coding, all right? And this is going to be somewhat of a long video because we're doing quite a bit in this video. All right, so in this video, since I don't really have a server or a server doing any real work, or I don't even have tasks that's going to take forever or anything like that, right? What we're going to be doing is just, or what they did in RabbitMQ, it was build out a Fibonacci function that will spit out the number on the 10th number, right? The 10th, in the 10th place, what is that Fibonacci number? If you don't know what a Fibonacci number is or like how that works, just look it up, man. I'm not going to explain that. Everybody should know what that is because it was, I think, old school, you know, interview kind of stuff. I'm not sure if they do it now, but it was kind of old school. But that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be sending from the client side, sending in that number on where we want that Fibonacci number is. So if you want it in the 10th place, it's going to give us back the 10th place digit for the Fibonacci sequence. I keep on saying number. I should have said sequence, right? The 10th place of the sequence of the Fibonacci. Anyways, you know what I'm talking about, right? So anyways, that's what we're going to be doing. So let's get to work. All right. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is, since our client is going to be receiving some arguments, we are going to be grabbing that. All right. So I'm going to copy this. I should really rename it to this right here. So I'm going to say right here. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to rename my file. So this send is going to be RPC client, and this right here is going to be RPC server. Okay. All right. So in our client, we're going to have some arguments, right? We're going to be running this, and whatever the argument is, which is going to be a number, right? Because we want that 10th place of the Fibonacci sequence. That's what we're going to be sending in, that number, right? So we do need that number right off the bat. We're just checking this out. If they don't send that number in, we're going to just close out the program. Now what I'm going to do is that once they have that number, I'm going to just store that number in a variable called num. And by the way, the send message, this is going to be something else. We're going to say get fib, right? We're going to get the Fibonacci. So the most of the stuff is pretty much the same, right? We still have the connection channel. I say that all the time, right? And we still have our assert queue. But in this case, like I said in that diagram, we're going to be receiving some stuff. So this client is going to be doing two things. It's going to be sending data and also consuming data from a queue, right? So in that case, what we need to do is make this or store this into a queue variable, and that's that. And the queue name, I don't really care what queue name it is. We're going to just leave it empty for right now. Also, the durable stuff, we're going to leave it as, we're going to put it as exclusive, meaning that once this program ends, it's going to delete that queue. And then after that, what we're going to do is just console log requesting fib, you know, the num, that's it. And before we go on, the only thing that we're going to be working on right now is this part right here, where we send the fib, or we send that number to the queue. Right there. This is the only thing we're going to be working on right now. Later on, we are going to be consuming it, but I want to take it one step at a time so that way you understand what's going on, okay? Just wanted to let you guys know, all right? All right, so the next step is to send to queue. Yes, we're going to be using the default exchange. There is no reason to be using the topic or direct. We're going to just be using the default, right? Even though default is direct, we already talked about that. But yeah, the default. If you do want to use a topic or whatever you could absolutely do that if you really wanted to, but I'm not going to go that far into doing that. But the queue that we're going to be sending to, we're going to be sending it to a specific queue, obviously, and this is going to be called the RPC underscore queue. So this queue is going to be responsible of getting all the data that getting the request that the client is sending. That is it. Now, there are two problems that we do need to solve right off the bat, okay? Let me pull up that diagram. All right, so let's look at the diagram really quick. So we're sending a request to this queue, right? And then once it goes to the server, it needs to respond somewhere, right, to a queue. Now, the two problems that come in is that, okay, first of all, what queue is this going to reply back to, or what queue is this going to send the data to, right? Imagine that you have an architecture or an application that has various queues, right? And you don't know which queue you want to send it to. You got to specify which queue you want to send this to, so that way we could grab it inside of the client, right? Because the client is going to be reading off a certain queue, so we need to send this to that certain queue, right? And the way that we do that is that we're going to be adding some options to this send to queue, and that option is a property called reply to, and we'll get into that in a bit, right? So that's the first problem that we have, right? What queue are we going to be sending it to? The second problem is, let's say that this queue right here has 10 data sets or 10 tasks or 10 messages, right? Which message is the correct message that we want to grab when we're dealing with this client particular instance, right? This instance is looking for a specific message. So how do we determine which one of these 10 is the correct one, the one we want to grab? So those are two very big problems that we need to solve, and thank God RabbitMQ has it easy for us. So when we send to queue, we're going to be sending it to the RPC queue. We're going to be sending our data in, whatever that data is, which is not message, is actually num, and then .toString. We're going to string this because remember, everything is a string. We got to send it as a string. And then the third argument is some options, all right? And this is going to be in a form of an object. So the first problem, where the problem was where to send it to, RabbitMQ gives us a property called reply to, and this is going to say, hey, once you send it here and everything is done, we want you to reply back to this specific queue. What queue, you may be asking? The queue that we created up here. This is the queue that we want them to send it back to. So we already know how to grab that, queue.queue. And the second problem was that what specific message are we going to be grabbing in this client, right? We need a way to identify that message, right? And they also have a property for that called the correlation ID, right? And this correlation ID has to be a unique identifier. And the way that I'm going to be doing this is we're going to be installing, so npm UUID. You already know how to use this. It's just a generator. Up above, what we're going to be doing is grabbing that. So const, we're going to be grabbing the v4, and we're going to rename it as the UUID v4, and we're going to set that equal to require UUID. Dude, did I save this in the right spot? Man, sometimes I'm inside a folder and okay, yeah. So if I go to package JSON, yep, there it is. All right, awesome. All right, so we have that now, and now what we're going to be doing is creating another const right here, const, and we're gonna call this UUID, whatever, and we're gonna just generate a UUID v4. We're gonna generate a random number, or a ID, and we're going to be setting this correlation to that UUID that we set up. So UUID, and that's it, right? So this is the first step, and we're only focusing on the first step, right? Sending it to the queue. And notice that this RPC queue, we're not mentioning it up here. You might be wondering, why are we not asserting that queue, making sure that queue exists? Well, the thing is, since we're going to be requesting, or we're going to be sending a data in and then waiting for a response, if this queue does not exist, that means that a consumer has not created this RPC queue, and therefore there is no consumer that's going to be taking this job, right? So let's just say for right now, if we did create that queue right here with this RPC queue, we're going to be sending it to that queue, obviously, because we created it. But if no consumer is actually consuming stuff from that queue, guess what? We're just going to be waiting forever until a consumer decides to, or we spawn an instance of the consumer that's listening to the RPC queue, and then we'll get some data back, right? But until then, it's just waiting on the queue, and we're just waiting on someone to, consume it. In that case, we don't want that to happen, right? We really do not want to be waiting for this kind of stuff. We don't want to prolong that data. So what we did is just we're not going to be asserting the queue right here. We're going to be asserting the queue in the server side. So that way, if a queue with RPC is not created, it's just going to drop off that. It's just going to be dropping off that task. So that's why we did it this way, right? We're making a queue to actually grab that data because we're sending that. We're telling it, hey, we want you to send it. We want you to send that data back to this certain queue right here. That's why we assert queue on this one, because we're actually waiting for data on this one. But in this case, since we're sending data to a queue, and if a consumer is not listening to it, we want to just drop off whatever task it may be. So that's it for right now for the client. Let's focus on the server. This is where we're going to be receiving the data and processing it and then sending back data. So first of all, the queue name that we're going to be listening to is the RPC underscore queue. Right? And like I said, we're going to be doing a Fibonacci sequence. So they already have a Fibonacci sequence right here. All we're doing is just using this function, right? And I'm going to be renaming this to process task, because that's what we're doing, processing the task and then sending some stuff back. So again, most of the stuff is the same. We're going to be creating a connection, the channel, the queue. This is where we're going to be asserting that queue, making sure that this RPC queue does exist, because that means that it's starting to consume from that queue, which is a good thing. And also, I'm just doing somewhat best practices, right? We also want to do a channel.prefetch right here, so that way we could send that data out evenly to all the servers if we do have multiple servers, right? If you do not know what a prefetch is, look at my past videos. I've talked about this. I'm not going to be explaining this, but I will leave a link down below on the video that we talked about the prefetch. I can't remember the video on top of my head, but I will have that in the description down below. And then we're going to just simply console log, hey, we're just awaiting RPC requests. And then we're going to start consuming from our queue, right? And this is not what we're going to be doing. But we already know that inside that queue, we do have, or inside that data set inside the queue, we do have that number that we sent in the very beginning, right? The Fibonacci, we're going to be receiving the nth place of the Fibonacci sequence. So we do need to grab that. So what I'm going to say is const n is going to equal, oops. And remember, it's a string, so we do need to parse int that. So parse, make it into an integer again. And we're going to be msg.content.toString, or yeah, to string. There you go. So we're going to be grabbing that message that we sent in and just converting that into a integer, and we're going to be storing that in the n variable. And then after that, I'm just copy this. We're going to be counting logging the fib and number. That's it. And then after we have that, we're going to store const r or fib num. We're gonna be calling this Fibonacci sequence up there, or Fibonacci right there, and then we're gonna be passing in that n, so that way we get the nth place of that Fibonacci sequence. And now that we have that data back, or that list, or whatever it is, in this case is that Fibonacci number, what we want to do is send it back to the queue that we told it to send it back to, right? The queue.queue. So what we want to do now is actually channel.send to queue, just like in the other ones, right? In over here, send to queue, we're doing exactly the same thing, right? First of all, we got to specify what queue we want to send it back to, right? And we already sent it over here what queue we wanted to send it back to. All we need to do is just grab that. How do we grab that property? It lives inside the msg.properties.reply to. Is it here? Yeah, there it is, right there. It lives inside right here. So this is going to return that queue that we sent in over here. This is going to return this. So this is where we're going to replying back to that queue. And then the message buffer dot from. And again, everything has to be in a string. So we're going to be returning this, the fib num, and just converting that into a string. So fib num dot to string. And then what we want to send back again is a property called the correlation ID, right? We're still passing that around, so that way we know exactly what ID we're going to be looking for in the client side. So this correlation ID that still lives inside, I'm not going to type this all again, properties right here, that still lives inside this dot correlation ID. There it is. And by the way, guys, in this case right here, since we are processing some data, we want to we don't want to automatically acknowledge this, right? We want to make this false. We don't want to automatically acknowledge. We want to manually acknowledge it once we actually did what we needed to do, which is send back the actual, data set that they requested, right? So once we do this, the very end, what I'm gonna do is just say channel.ack. Remember, this is just acknowledging it, and we're gonna be acknowledging the message that they sent in, which is all good, right? All right. So in this file, what we did right now, let me pull up that thing, is that we're consuming the data, right? We're consuming the data. We're actually doing all this right here. Sorry, I gotta pick another color. So we're doing this. Make it a little bit bigger. A little bit bigger. My bad, guys, my bad. So we're doing this part right here. All right, just making it clear for you guys. This is what we're doing, right? So we're sending, God, I should have done it here. We're actually consuming stuff from the consumer or from the queue. We're processing the data, and then we're going to be sending it back to a specific queue that they told us to send it to, right? So this is exactly what we're doing in this file. Sending data, or consuming the data, and then sending back data to a specific queue. That's what we're doing right here, all right? Now, the very last step is for us to do this part right here, where we're gonna, what's it called? The client is going to be requesting or consuming data from this queue. So for that, we gotta go back to the RPC client. And honestly, guys, it's the same thing that you've always do when you consume, right? So once we do that, we also want to consume. So channel.consume. There you go. What queue do you want to consume from? Well, we want to consume from this queue. So I'm just copy this. We want to consume from this queue. We're going to grab a message back. And just to make extra sure, we want to make sure that the msg.properties.correlation, no, not content, correlation ID is equal, equal to the correlation ID that we have up here. Where is that? The UUID. Sorry, the UUID is the correlation ID. So we want to make sure that the correlation ID that they sent back is exactly the same as this UUID. If it is, then is the correct message. If it's not, then we're not going to do nothing with that message. And all we're going to be doing is obviously grabbing that message, console logging just that message that is sent back, which should be the Fibonacci number on that place. And also what we want to do lastly is, close it out of this connection when we consume, right? We want to close it out. We're done. We don't really care no more. We just want to close out the connection. And we still got to acknowledge, so don't forget to acknowledge no ACK. We're going to set this to true because we're going to just automatically acknowledge this one. So let's see if this works, right? We should be done. And like I said, I will be explaining what's happening in this in the diagram form later on in the video. Actually, it's actually going to be pretty quick because it's coming up really quick. Just want to make sure this is working. All right, so we're going to be, first of all, we do got to spawn up our consumer side first. So we're going to CD into RPC. And then we're going to start up that node RPC server, right? So this is just awaiting RPC request. Over here, what we're going to be doing is CD into the RPC folder and then start up that RPC client. But in this case, we do need to send in that number digit, right? So we're going to be, I want the 10th place of the Fibonacci sequence. So I'm going to be sending in 10. So once we do that, oh God, see, well, at least we got this part, right? But over here, we did something wrong. What did we do wrong? Let's go back over here. It's saying parent on line 20, right here, line 20. So, dude, it's parse int. parse. You probably saw that. Parse int. There you go. No, what? Again, parse int. There you go. Control save this. This is actually restart everything now. Clear this out. Do that. We already grabbed it. Clear this out. Do that. There we go. All right, let's try it one more time. All right. As you saw, it worked, but let's try it one more time. All right, we're gonna do it one more time. This time we want the, I don't know, the 5th place. Right, hit that. Is requesting that. You saw that it grabbed it right here, and then we got 5 back. All right, let me see if that. Okay, I think that is true. I'm looking at this right here, man. Look, man, that function, I did not create it, so if it's wrong, it's not my fault. That function, it came with RabbitMQ. Blame RabbitMQ. But 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back. Yeah, 5 back. Nor do I really care if it's right or wrong. We got something back, which counts for something, right? That means that it's working. Just letting you guys know. But it is right. You know, it is right. Anyways, as you can see, everything is working, right? We sent a request. The server is processing it. And then once it's done, it sends it back to the client side. And the client side console logs that what we got, right? Got 5, which is really, really cool, right? We created a RPC with RabbitMQ. Now, let me actually take you on like what's actually happening, right, in diagram form, so that way you get a very, very better view on this. And we're going to be doing this very, very step by step, right? So, okay, let's clear all this out because that looks very, very messy and jumbled up. Right here. If you don't care about this, we're pretty much done with this video, guys. This is just me going over in diagram form. So if you don't care, please consider subscribing, comment down below, and like the video if you learned something. Thank you guys, and thank you for watching my video. But for the people that do care, let's get to work. So what we have right now is, you already know, guys. Let me actually change this to red again. So you should know somewhat what's going to happen, right? So I'm assuming that you already have both applications running, or at least both of these files running. So from the very get-go, you should already, let's actually take a look, right? So in the RPC server, you should already have, so this is what we have right now. If you have both of these running, you already know that you have a, hold on, let me get my thing. You already know that you have a, why does it keep on changing on me, man? All right, you already have a publisher / client, right? And you also have a server / consumer, correct? And in this server RPC, we're checking to see. I have to switch to the arrow to get that. We're checking to see if we have this queue called the RPC queue, because remember, this is sending it to the RPC queue. So if it's not created, it's just going to drop it off the queue. So since you have both of these running, we are creating the queue name RPC queue. So I'm gonna have a queue right here. See what I mean? I have to keep on switching over and over, man. I have a queue right here called the RPC queue, right? Underscore. And there's nothing to consume right now, but we did, not buy, I was going to say buying, but we are consuming it from that queue. So I'm just going to say, hey, we're going to be consuming something from that queue. So I'm already going to be drawing an arrow saying we're consuming stuff, but we don't have anything in there yet right now. I'm just setting this up right now. So we have that, and then we're not going to get anything from here because we're not consuming anything. So there's nothing to process. So there is no queue being created right now. Over here, what we have is we're creating a queue. So we're going to assert queue right here as well. So we have another queue. See, this thing keeps on changing, dude. I'm getting really annoyed by this. All right, so we have another queue right here, and it's randomly generated with a random name. So I'm going to call this A, B, C, right? So this is just the basics right now. So let's start going line by line. We got a connection, we got a channel, we got a queue. We already created the queue. And we also have right here, we're sending some stuff to the queue. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to be sending a message to the queue, right there. On line 21, we're sending a message to the queue, and we're going to give it some properties, some options, right? Some properties. In this case, it's reply to. So I'm going to add right here. I guess I'm going to say, you can't really see that. That's why I don't like it. Okay, right here. So right here, I'm gonna say you're gonna add some options right here, and RP reply to RPT, I guess, is going to be to A, B, C, because right on top, when we wrote that, we're saying that, hey, we want you to reply to the queue that we created up here, which is ABC, as you see down there, right? And also we're gonna give it a correlation ID. So I'm gonna just say C for this, or COR. And then we're gonna give it 1, 2, 3. That's our randomly generated UUID that we got, right? So these are the options that we're sending it with the message, right? All right, going back to the RPC server, we got channel a connection. We got a channel. We're inserting a queue, which is right here, the RPC queue. Sorry, I'm just trying to get comfortable. Let me scroll down a little bit. Okay, and now we have something right here, right? We got. Dude, I swear, bro, I swear, one of these days I'm gonna get me a good little, better something than a mouse. Anyways, right here, what we have is something in the queue, right? Boom, we got something in the queue. And don't worry about this prefetch. We're not using it. It's just that we only have one service, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, now we're going to be consuming something, right? We're consuming from the queue. We got the queue right here. And guess what it came with? So we're going to be sending with that message. Obviously, this is appended to that message. So over here, what we have is RPT. It's going to equal A, B, C. And also COR is 1, 2, 3, right? Those are the options that also the server has now, right? So right here, we're grabbing the message and all that, the Fibonacci, whatever. And then right here, this is where we're going to be sending it to, right? So the server is now sending something to the queue. What queue is that? Well, is inside of this message that we got. So it's inside the message properties.reply to, which the reply to has ABC. So ABC is where we're going to be sending this message. And as you can see, we have an ABC right here. It's looking for one. It found one. So here it is. And what are we sending to this queue right here? Well, we're just sending it the message, first of all, the Fibonacci message, or the number, and also correlation ID. So we're going to be sending in a property of the COR with 1, 2, 3, right? So no longer are we sending in the reply to property. There's no reason no more. The only thing that we need is the correlation ID, which is the 1, 2, 3, right? So we sent that right there. We manually acknowledged it. So after all that is done, as you see, we still have that check mark. We come over here, we say, hey, we have completely acknowledged it. So we're going to erase this. The message is no longer in this queue, which is all good. Now, moving on to the RPC client over here, since this is consuming, it's going to be consuming from the queue that created up here, which is literally the ABC right here. So guess what? We're going to be consuming some stuff from right here. Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is checking if the correlation ID sent from the server or sent from this message now, which is 1, 2, 3, if it's the UUID that we created up there, right? Which it is, because it sent it in right here. So 1, 2, 3 is the same thing. If everything is all good and done, then the message is going to be sent, and we're going to grab the message right here, and that's it. Obviously, once this server sends in that message, we have one queue right here, right? We got a queue, we send it in, we're automatically acknowledging it. So once we sent it in and this receives a message, that queue or the message is out the queue now. So no need for that no more. So this is it, guys. This is what's basically happening, guys. So I hope you learned something from this today. Like I said, this is the last video, so I hope you learned something. I hope you, I guess just got something out of it. I mean, I hope you learned something through this series, through this video. Honestly, guys, message brokers are really a big deal when it comes to big applications. So you should get really comfortable with message brokers. It might not be RabbitMQ, like I said, there are other ones, but just getting familiarized with the concepts is a really good thing. So congratulations on completing the series, I guess, and thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Also, like I said in the beginning, if you feel like supporting me other than watching, there are some links down there where you could just donate or just hit that Patreon, right? So thank you, guys, and I will see you in the next video, which I don't know what it's going to be, or next series, whatever it may be. I'll see you then, guys. Take care. Peace.